Hi, I'm Nancy Shantou, and I'm here to read to you from Access to Power, a radical approach for changing your life. In this section, I'm finishing up about how we internalize oppression and privilege, talking about how we internalize privilege, and then I'll talk more about empowerment and the antidote to the alienation formula. So let me read this. This is from Julia Kelleher's chapter, Oppression, Alienation, and Empowerment. And I'll read it, and then we'll talk about it. Conversely, internalized privilege occurs when we occupy a one-up position in society and protect it by unconsciously agreeing with its assumptions. We even more rarely challenge our internalized privilege because the benefits in structural power are often too great to consider forfeiting, despite the personal costs of isolation and loneliness. Our privilege is an invisible helper, and while privilege is visible to the oppressed around us, those with privilege often find it difficult to become conscious of and acknowledge the benefits of their privilege. Those with privilege have also struggled and worked hard to achieve their success, and yet they have been traveling downriver with the current. Facing oppressive forces is like trying to swim upstream. No wonder privilege and oppression are such divisive forces in our culture and our lives. If we reverse the alienation formula, we see a way to become empowered. Knowledge cuts through the confusion of mystification, community leads us out of isolation, and combined knowledge plus community help us take action against oppressive forces. Here is the empowerment formula. Empowerment equals knowledge plus community plus action against oppression. After my daughter Sarah completed a bachelor's degree in computer science at a prestigious university, she was plagued by insecurities and self-doubt. This is internalized oppression. She applied for many jobs and in some cases wasn't even interviewed before she was turned down. She felt devoid of the sense of power and confidence one would imagine she would have after years of enjoying education and receiving good grades. She began to imagine that she lacked the skills and talent to work in the field of computer technology. Mystification. As a young woman, she had been discouraged overtly and covertly by the cultural stereotype of what a computer tech was, namely a very driven, obsessively focused, white-skinned man. This is more oppression. Her self-definition did not match this internalized stereotype of success, mystification. She didn't know anyone else in her predicament. She didn't know other women in the industry, and her male counterparts were mostly far more confident. Isolation. She was precariously close to giving up on her chosen career path. In her pain, Sarah reached out to some trustworthy and powerful adults for guidance and help. Community. She revealed her difficulty to them, even though she felt ashamed and vulnerable to do so, and those adults helped her separate her internalized oppressive beliefs, knowledge, from her personal authentic beliefs. This process helped her reclaim her considerable transactional powers, weigh through job possibilities, research more options, and determine what was best for her. She was then able to take action against oppression. She realized that her strengths and talents didn't actually fit in the traditional computer programmer environment, that the contracts associated with those jobs were actually oppressive to her, and she began looking for more satisfying solutions to continue her passionate interest in current technology. Instead of colluding with her internalized oppression and agreeing to a one-down position that matched the gender stereotype, or giving up entirely to hopelessness and despair, she became creative and empowered in solving the dilemma. She found a master's program at UC Berkeley that combined the study of technology, information, and sociology, and felt her power and self-confidence return. Empowerment. In the context of a supportive community, she blossomed. She reclaimed her authentic love of learning and became optimistic about finding a position in the work world as a more aware and empowered woman. Sarah's experience not only brought her out of her own personal sense of alienation and powerlessness, but it also motivated her to help others, both men and women of various ethnicities, see the invisible barriers for marginalized groups in the primarily white male world of technology. She continues to create context for compassionate conversation in her community to take further action against the oppressive and painful divides she and others encounter in the often cruel world of competitive hierarchical dynamics. Escape from alienation not only reconnects us to ourselves and others, but it motivates us to heal the social divisions that hurt all of our hearts. Ultimately, we are able to come back to an essential and richly connected relationship with this amazing world. So we talked about empowerment there, and a little bit about privilege. And the idea is to really be able to see how when we face our alienation and gather the knowledge and understanding, the analysis that it takes to see and interpret what's happening to us, we can begin to reverse the formula and use the elements that counteract the alienation forces to empower ourselves. So this knowledge helps us make a transition out of the feelings of alienation, oppression, isolation, and mystification, and into the feelings of empowerment, community, knowledge, and taking action to fight oppression. So when we are doing those things, oftentimes we are going to want to make sure we understand all of our strengths and our sources of power. And sometimes a power inventory can be really helpful. I've created a document that I have clients and students fill out where they check all of the boxes on one side that are sources of oppression, and then they check all the boxes on the other side that are sources of privilege. It's an incomplete document, of course. But what it does is it helps people see not only what struggles they've been dealing with and what sources of oppression they've had to live with in their lives, and often those are things that they're aware of, but they also get to see all these strengths that they have, these sources of privilege that they may or may not have been acknowledging. And that whole transparency process, that knowledge process, is very important to the act of beginning to move in the empowerment direction in reclaiming our power. So we need community, we need support from others, we need to take action, and very often in order to take the action that will be most helpful, we need knowledge. Each of these components are critical to the empowerment process. Hope that helps.